Caitlin Ellis, and today I'm here at the 2022 NAB with TV Pro Gear. How are you doing?
Doing good, very busy at the show here and having fun.
It's been great to be back, and it's great to see you again. Can you, for our audience just tuning in, please tell us your name, your title, and a little bit about TV Pro Gear, the history behind.
Okay. I'm Andy Maisner, and I'm the president and founder of TV Pro Gear. We have two divisions. One is video system integration, where we design and build TV stations, video trucks, and mobile systems like fly packs. The other division is our professional services group, where we provide crew and equipment for shooting live events like concerts, conferences, sports, esports, and for example, right now we're shooting Divorce Court in Atlanta, Georgia for the 4th season for Fox. So two divisions.
And can you please tell our viewers what is being featured this year at the 2022 NAB for TV Pro Gear?
Well, what's new this year is several systems, really. But this is our new digital cinema fly pack, and you can see we're not nominated for the NAB Product of the Year award. So a lot of trend in the high-end music videos is that people want to use the digital cinema cameras rather than your traditional studio cameras to get that shallow depth of field. This is the film look. So we created this universal 8K video system that can handle up to 16 cameras for live events using digital cinema cameras, but we convert out of the back of the digital cinema camera the signal to go down this empty fiber, and we bring the traditional functions to digital cinema camera, like intercom, power to the camera, remote paint, and so on. So, and it works with any brand, Arri, Sony, Panasonic, Varicam. So we think this is a big need, and we know we used it just recently for the first time to shoot a Norah Jones video on top of the Empire State Building, and we already got 7.2 million views. So filling a new need.
And can you please tell our viewers next, for a lot of businesses, they were affected by COVID-19. How was TV Pro Gear specifically affected?
Well, first of all, we had 30% of the staff get COVID.
Wow.
But it was really a good opportunity to show the company's loyalty to the employees. Mm-hmm. We told everyone to work from home. If you're sick, you'll get paid full salary as long as it takes to get healthy. And we implemented very strict cleaning procedures. So we had all of the management staff and accounting worked remotely, and only the assembly people worked at our facility, and they worked in shifts to keep the number of people minimum. Our production services business fell apart. It went down by 85%. But we rotated and started building proprietary REMI systems that allowed us to do remote productions, controlling it from our facility in Glendale, California, but we could send out camera packages to people all over the world and do it remotely.
That's great to hear, during that time that you were able to pivot and kind of, send out packages to people, but yet still be able to work and protect your staff. So.
Yeah, it was a time to innovate,
At this time, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience? Maybe something TV Pro Gear is working on in the future, or no?
Well, let's see. We have a new fly pack here, and I know you'll grab some shots of it, called Genesis 2. And it's designed for smaller productions with robotic or operator-controlled cameras. It's pretty inexpensive, and it's designed to be operated by one person. The one we're showing here right after the show ships to Cal State University at Stanislaus for using it for shooting and streaming professors giving lessons. It's also appropriate for small churches and for shooting legislative bodies like city council meetings. So a big city wouldn't use this, but for example, Mammoth Lakes in California is a city of 10,000 people. They don't have a $100,000 budget, but they do have, a $20,000 budget. So, or a very small church that has a small budget. So we built something that's high quality, easy to use, and doesn't require a big staff. And we have online tutorials to use it. So I think it's a wave of the future for us. Big systems, little systems.
That's the great thing about TV Program. They're very versatile, to fit whatever the company needs. But if anybody would like to find out more about TV Program, where can they go?
So they should go to tvprogear.com, or they can call our phone, 818-246-7100. We're all over the internet and easily approachable.
Well, again, I want to thank you for joining us and taking the time. It's
Thank
great
you.
to see you again. It's been great to be back at the 2022 NAB.
Thank you so much.
Tracy from T-Bone's Barbecue here, and today I'm going to show you how to make a brisket. Now, before you turn this off, everyone gets really scared about brisket, because it's a very expensive piece of meat. It's the holy grail of red meat, but I'm here to tell you that the most important thing about brisket is time. If you can allot the time to it, you're going to turn out with a really good brisket, and we're going to show you a great recipe and walk you through step by step on how to do it. So first things first, this is a 20-pound brisket, okay? I have already trimmed this for the sake of time. This took me about an hour to trim this. So on the top part here, you'll notice that it's nice and level. It's what you're looking for. Now, usual briskets are going to have high and low points, and they're going to have points that stick out here and whatever. What you want to do is you want to trim this as much of a rectangle as possible, and you want it to be as flat on the top as it is on the fat cap on the bottom. Now you'll notice there's still some fat here. You don't want to trim all the fat out of your brisket, because this fat is going to render down. It's going to make the meat more malleable. It's going to make it more moist. You want fat in your brisket. So don't go nuts and start chopping this out and having huge canyons and craters of things where the fat used to be. All you want to do is level this out. So you'll notice this is nice and level. We kept some fat in here, some meat's showing through. Over the course of the cooking, smoking process, this fat will render down. So you got nice flat surface here, nice flat surface here. This is your point, this is your flat. Your point's gonna have more fat, your flat is gonna have less fat. So when you cut it and eat it, this is gonna be your fattier part, even after it renders down. This is your leaner part. So after we do all this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and season it. So about 7 hours ago, we went ahead and trimmed our brisket. I showed you how to do that, so we'll go over it one more time. What you want to do is, when you get a brisket like this is a 10-pound brisket, you're going to have a bunch of fat. It's going to be uneven. You're going to have, high points and low points and everything. You want to trim it along the edges. You want to square it off best you can, and then take your knife and just take off all of the fat on both sides. This is the top part. Your fat cap is on the bottom, and you want this to be as level on both sides as possible. I can't stress this enough, how important it is to make sure you take the time necessary to trim your brisket and to make sure that you get it even and you don't have any dangling pieces, because that's just going to burn. It's going to curl up on you over time. Putting in the extra effort, this took about 45 minutes to trim this upright and get everything level and everything. It'll be well worth it when we get into the smoking process. So again, this has been trimmed. We went ahead and put it back in the refrigerator for 7 hours. The seasoning is all soaked in. You can see it's penetrated the meat. It's all nice and permeated now on both sides. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put this into our smoker, and we're gonna smoke it for 8 hours. This is gonna go on for 8 hours. And then at the 8-hour mark, we're gonna pull it, and we're gonna wrap it in butcher paper. Now, I always say cook to temp and cook instead of cooking the time, but in this particular case, they should pretty much work out to be the same. You want this to smoke or to cook to 165 degrees internal temperature, which should take us about 8 hours. So we're gonna put this in here like this. We're smoking this over, it's up here. We're smoking this over apple wood, and like I said, we're gonna put this on here. We're gonna smoke it at 225 degrees over apple wood for 8 hours. At the 8-hour mark, we're gonna come back, wrap it in butcher paper, put it back in for 5 more hours, let that go, and then we'll pull it at when it gets to an internal temperature of 202 degrees. See you in 8 hours. Good morning, everybody. So 8 hours has passed. We put our brisket on at midnight last night, so we checked throughout the evening. Our Brisket has now reached an internal temperature of 165 degrees, which is what we want. So now we're going to take it out of our smoker and we're going to wrap it up in butcher paper. So, got the thermometer down here. So your brisket is going to start to get tender. It's not going to be fully done yet, but it's going to be tender. So you want to be cautious about lifting it up with tongs and things like that. So much like my pork shoulder and my pork belly and other large pieces of meat, I like to just slide a little cutting board like this underneath it. There we go. We're going to come over here. And I do want to make one correction from last night. I had indicated this was a 10-pound brisket. This is actually a 20-pound brisket before cooking. What you want to do is your brisket here. You want to take your butcher paper. You want to wrap it over like this. You have some overlap. Perfect. Now we've got our brisket all nice and wrapped up in butcher paper. We're going to put it back on here. Let this continue to smoke until the internal temp reaches about 202 degrees. At that point, you should be able to slide your thermometer probe in, just like going through a stick of hot melted butter. So we'll check this back in a couple hours. See you then. Hey everybody, so we're back. So it's been 15 hours since this brisket went on to the smoker. And we're still at 225 degrees. I just took the temperature. We're at 206 degrees internal temp, which is where we should be, maybe a degree or two over, but we're going to go ahead and pull this out now. And we are going to let it rest for about an hour to 2 hours, and then we're going to carve it. So as you can see, I mean, look at all that juice. You can see that juice that just permeated and penetrated through all of that butcher paper. And I mean, this is pliable, which is what you want it to be. So the resting process is very important. Don't skip this step, because what happens is that heat is going to allow that meat and that muscle to rest. It's going to let some of that fat go back into the meat and just create a more moist, a more flavorful brisket for your enjoyment. And then by doing this, it's going to slice just like butter. So check back in about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and we'll slice this up and see our finished product. See you then. Okay, everybody, so we've taken our brisket off of the smoker. Total smoke time for this was 16 hours. So it did take just about what I thought it would. Again, we wrapped it in butcher paper at the 8-hour mark and let it finish after that. We're gonna go ahead and unwrap it now. You can see just how much juice and how much moisture this brisket actually has in it, the way it's coming through the paper. Now what you're looking for on a brisket is you're looking for what we call a little bit of the brisket wiggle. You want it to kind of be flimsy like this. I mean, you can see just the juice coming out of that. It's gonna be super nice. And you gotta remember too, on your brisket, you always wanna cut against the grain. So this was a 20-pound brisket. So I cut half, put half away. This is the half that we're going to be eating today. So I can already see there that we are going with the grain. So we're going to go ahead and just take this corner here. Actually, let's do this. You can all see at home. There we go. All right, we're going to go ahead and do a slice there. Oh yeah, that's nice. Slice right into that. You can see you've got a little bit of a smoke ring there. I did that on purpose on the edge. Now that's with the grain. So that's going to show you, see that's going with the grain. You don't want to slice that way. So we're going to put these pieces out to the side. You want to go against the grain. So this is here. And you see the difference on how much more tender this is when you go to slice it. I mean, it should fall just right off your knife like that. Look at that. You get a little bit of a jiggle. Super nice. We're going to take one of these pieces here. So that's what you should be looking for. You should be nice and pliable, flexible like that. Got nice tender in the meat. You can see the moisture in there. Slight smoke ring, bark on both sides. There you are. Easy to do brisket. Check us out on Facebook at tbonesbarbecue.com, Instagram T-Bones Island Barbecue, and on our website tbonesbarbecue.com. Check us out next week where we'll show you some more easy ways on how to make simple barbecue meals for you and your family. Take care.
Welcome to the next chapter with Jen Bryan. Today, I'm joined by country rock star Matt Gage. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. That was a really perfect introduction. Thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Matt.
My name is Matt Gage. I have a country rock band and out of Sacramento.
So when's the first time you picked up a musical instrument?
When I was 7 years old, my grandmother gave me my first guitar, and I still have it. And I probably spent the next 10, 15 years not learning really how to play, just toting it around. And it went with me everywhere, whether I went to college, jobs, and went. I didn't know what cool was, but I knew there was something about that guitar that was. And so it wasn't, I think I was in my mid-20s when I actually learned to start taking it a little bit more serious.
So most people have like a security blanket. Your guitar was your going out blanket. I can take it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It really was. Yeah. Yeah. To this day, I play some mean air guitar because of that guitar, you know.
Who doesn't want to know the guy that's carrying around a guitar, what kind of band he has? What a great conversation breaker.
Yeah, I was part of that guy who had said, that old T-shirt. I'm in a band, so talk to me. Yeah, it was real. I didn't have that shirt, but no.
You didn't have it? Should we make you one?
I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to it. Yeah.
So what prompted you in your 20s to actually learn how to play that musical instrument that you carried around for 15 plus years?
There's a big difference between a 7-year-old's heart and a 25-year-old's heart who's finally got a little seasoned in life and realized that there's a lot of pitfalls and a lot of pain in life. And that was one channel or instrument that I had to connect with that and to almost release any type of negativity or anger or emotions that come with life. That's what music is.
So how did you get into writing music and then learning to play the guitar? Which one came first, and how did you decide to delve into that?
You know, let's see if I can put this the right way, because I always believe, I remember growing up always listening and connecting with music. Even if I really didn't understand what the song was about, I knew it did something. And then when you get older and you have your pains and struggles, it kind of marries up with each other, music, and you suddenly realize, oh man, I know what that song means now. And in my experience, once that happens, listening to music no longer is just suffice. You suddenly have to tell your own story, good, bad, or indifferent. And that's how I really got into songwriting, was trying to just tell my story and make sure people are having a good time and uplifting music at the same time.
That's very interesting, because I never knew growing up why like Linkin Park and these very angry bands, you know, Limp Bizkit, and like why I identified with this. I mean, I grew up in East Sacramento, and I'm jamming out, memorizing these lyrics, punk rock, and you know, definitely not what you would think would be my kind of music. But now in the last 6-7 years since I've gone to treatment and such for complex PTSD, it's interesting to see like the people I identified with even at a young age, not knowing where their pain came from. And you could feel the beat, you could feel the, the struggle that they were going through.
Yeah, and like I said, Linkin Park is an incredible example of that, Chad Bennett. And like, for me, I thought like the what you're talking about, like how it changes you, like music, for me, I thought if there's one thing lost in music nowadays, it's the art of making an album. Because people probably your age and my age, we grew up, it wasn't just one song that changed your life or one thing. It was a full album. It was that theme or that mission statement, whatever instrument would be. And you'd Google to see what Leonard Skinner was wearing, and then you realize, this is my attire. There's always a mission attached to an album. And I think when we tried to record mine, that's what we really try to hold on to, that art.
That's so amazing.
What's that?
Oh, I said that's so amazing. So, I didn't have the internet until I went to college, so I had to pull out the CD lyrics and read them.
yeah, that was some of your favorite. That was beautiful. Some of the greatest artists go into just the creating of that.
But to have the whole CD and to play the whole thing, I think that is a lost art. So, when you go to the studio, do you typically pick a theme before you start writing? How does that process work?
That's I'm glad you asked that, because this is the first time that, yes, we're going in and doing another album, but this one is going to be half of it. It's probably going to be 5 songs. And I've kicked around with the idea that we're going to call this some type of session, like whether it's the whiskey sessions or the John Wayne session. So I'm going in there completely inhibited, kind of organic, thinking about what is this about? What's the theme it's going to be? It's going to be funny or humor or whatever the band and I come, and that's what we're going to name this next album, whatever that the spirit of the in the studio will be.
So who are your musical inspirations, that you draw from when you decided to be this country rock star in your mid-20s and learn to play musical instruments?
I grew up a big Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash fan, as the most, but that later transpired into Shooter Jennings. You know, Waylon's son was a huge influence of music. What could be done with bridge, and also Jackson Taylor out of Texas is another one that just started playing the traditional alt country. You know, even when there was mainstream country music in the 60s and 70s, there was always an offshoot of something. You know, no one really knew the term alt country until, like, you know, the outlaw movement came into, bands like Cracker came into, Uncle Tupelo, Sun Volt. They were different. And now there's a whole nother generation recreating that, such as the Shooter Jennings of the world, or Jackson Taylor's, or even Yellow Wolf is up there. So bands like that.
That's so amazing. So I'm not familiar with most of those, so hopefully our audience. I know Johnny Cash because I had to memorize the lyrics for in 8th grade.
Oh, which one?
Folsom Prison.
Right on.
I'm very good at memorizing lyrics, like as a kid, you know, like I think talking about this earlier, that you memorize the whole song and like you hear it come on and it takes you back to that moment. Yep. And I think that this generation that's kind of lost on like that feeling, that moment when we used to go to dances, the high school dances, and you know, like when Nelly would set the tone for, like, you know, because I went to an all-girls school, I really looked forward to being able to see the boys. Like, you had to be able to drop like it's hot and, like, you know, be your best Catholic girl self.
There's some stuff sure right now listening to you being like, that rock and roll.
Well, that was the thing, like, because I had such an eclectic musical taste growing up, to be honest. I wasn't allowed to listen to normal music. I mean, my favorite anthem for years was Dirty Dancing, Hungry Eyes, that was on cassette tape, and my dad had to play it over and over in the car.
Oh my God.
And Michael Bolton.
Growing up, I don't think I had a girlfriend or my sister to this day watches Dirty Dancing. You either loved it or hated it in my house. That was all there was to it, man. It was.
My mom only owned 2 movies. It was Pretty Woman and Dirty Dancing. And
oh my God!
I'm sure
I've known it for half a day, and that makes so much sense now. I got it. That makes sense.
You know, if people only knew what great influences I grew up with. It explains a lifetime of shenanigans, I'm sure. So, if you had one piece of advice to give your younger self, or someone that is at a crossroads musically in their life, or, you know, life choices wise, what piece of advice would you give them?
You know, the one thing that the first thing that pops in my mind is I remember years ago, someone told me something and it seemed really corny at the time. A good friend of mine told me, so, you know, Matt, music doesn't lie. And I'm like, God, that's so cheesy and kind of generic. But when you really start doing this as a profession and you start really putting your heart and soul into it, you realize that you can really identify with something that connects with you or with your audience. There's either soul in music or there isn't, whether that's a lie or not a lie. You can tell when someone's trying to force it or doing it for alternative motives. It just, when someone has a sincere passion for music, it comes out, and therefore it doesn't lie. So my advice would be to find that notch, to find that niche, and make sure it's not something else that someone's already done before. Make sure it's uniquely yourself, because we're all pioneering of something forward, and we don't need to mimic something else.
So that begs the question then, Matt. So what does the next chapter for Matt W. Gage look like?
Man, God, if I knew, that would be great. It's so weird to have, hopefully the evolution of music and my songwriting has gotten to a point where I'll be 44 this year and married. I don't have a family besides my wife and my dog, our 3-legged dog, Leo. But I hope the music becomes more mature and, like I just said, authentic and sincere for whatever I'm going to.
That's amazing. So you're going to put out another album. Do you hope to tour this year? I
do. Yeah, absolutely. In the mix of COVID and then life, you know, like a lot of the band core members have moved on. So it's kind of a regrouping and an exciting but intimidating time to go forward and to put out music and have trusted band members that they're gonna show up every night and put out that same energy and project that you had. So yeah, we're gonna tour, do music, be rich and famous, win some Grammys. I assume this interview is going to give me tons of money. And
fantastic, Matt. Well, I look forward to your performance. Thank you so much for joining me today for the next chapter of Jen Bryan. I know the viewers are going to be looking up your music and following you, and I can't wait for you all to see what we have for you next on the next chapter of Jen Bryan.
Thank you for having me. There ought to be a bar in this town just for guys like me. A place where I could go, man, and just be me. Some girls might come on out and they take off all their clothes. I'd come out with the guitar and say, welcome to the show. The same lonely girl would be there looking for love. Just like me, man, just never quite enough. 'Cause I broke some hearts and I felt some pain. I'll cross my bridges with matches and gasoline. And here I go, just being me. I'm being the only man that I can be. My life has traveled a gravel road. I'm pretty tall, but I still talk slow. Sure, I know all the words to bring her right back. But I'll just sit right here, man, and watch her pass. 'Cause I broke some hearts and I felt some pain. I'll cross my bridges with matches and gasoline. And here I go, just being me. I'm being